Some of them go to Shelley, some of them. go to her. Let's call the meeting to order. At 4:33-ish. Do you have any comments from the public today? Don't see any hands shooting up in the air, so we'll go with a no. Any requests for adjustments or relief?
I have none this month.
Thank you, sir. So the consent agenda is last month's minutes, the latest financial reports, tax collector reports, and any attendance approval, expense approval. Anybody like to discuss the minutes, have questions, or excuse me, the consent agenda items, which include the minutes? Questions, discussion, nothing, Paul, anything?
Nothing.
Okay, anybody like to make a motion that we approve the consent agenda?
So move.
We got a motion, I will second that. All in favor, say aye. Aye. None opposed. Thank you, gentlemen. Item 8 is to review and act on the district's draft fiscal year 2022-23 budget and water rate structure.
So Maureen has prepared a couple of scenarios at your request. The first budget is the one that was figured on the rate that was published, 11.5 cents. And you have scenario 2, which is a rate that's figured at 10.5 cents. And scenario 3 is 11 cents even.
So 10.5 was the no difference basically from last year, right? You had higher appraised value, but a lower tax rate, and it kind of was a wash. Isn't that how we came up with 10.5? Does that sound right?
Your parity rate.
Parity, thank you. Okay.
10.5.
10.5,
is- And then,
little over a half, right, or under, yeah.
yeah, 0.1044.
And what it came down to, the big issue was how much we had in reserves.
Yeah, so at 11, you end up the year with 9.2 months of coverage. At 10.5, you end the year at 8.9, and at 11 flat, you end the year at 9 flat. 9 months coverage. Wow.
So parity means nobody's taxes go up, which would be 10.5, and that still leaves us with almost 9 months of reserves.
Almost 9 months reserve. So
And what's
for your
our
district-
target range?
For your district, 6 to 12 months.
Smack in the middle.
And the current is like 6.5 or something?
Roughly, yeah.
Current is less than 6, yeah.
Less
No,
than
it's
6.
less than 7. It's less than 7.
Okay. So the parity has a significant increase in the reserve. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it goes up potentially 2 months.
Mhm.
I don't see a reason to do anything more than parity.
I agree.
In parity, you would still be avoiding a rollback election at the parity rate.
I think almost it keeps that reserve, because that's what concerned me was why it's there and what else. But with 9 months, it makes me comfortable.
We're just kind of cautious with stepping it down because of the threat of a rollback. You have no debt now, so all your taxes are just M&O taxes.
Yeah,
That was
And-
kind of the
Mhm.
thought, just kind of slowly you're stepping it down in case.
yeah, because other districts that have debt can kind of play with moving some pennies between M&O and debt. But since you don't have debt, which is nice, you're just stuck with M&O rate. And as a developed district, you're limited, from here on out, and unless you do a major annexation or something, you're going to be limited in how much you can increase it each year. So
Without a vote.
what?
Without a vote.
Yeah, without an election. And your election would be automatically triggered. So if you were a developing district, it would be up to the residents to call the election. But as a developed district, it's automatically triggered if you go above that rate. But at the parity rate, which is 0.1044, you're still below the rate that would trigger the election.
So the budget that we talked about last time, at our last meeting, we were gonna have 5% increase in revenues projected, and we were gonna have 14% decrease in expenses, and that's how we ended up getting a couple of months more reserve.
Right. If all that worked.
I agree with Brad. Why go over parity if that puts us right in the heart of the reserve range and you know, we don't put ourselves in a financial bind. So any more discussion on that? I'll make a proposal if we want to.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I make a motion that we go with the parity rate on taxes, which is 10.44 cents for this next budget.
Yes.
Okay, we got a second.
10.5, 10.44.
10.44.
Okay, so, well, I guess we're doing the budget first, then we're gonna do the tax rate. So
Yeah.
you want to adopt a budget with a 10.44 cent tax rate.
Yes. Well, does that incorporate both of those items in one vote, or do we need to do separate votes?
We still need to do the public hearing.
Yeah, let's do separate because it's a
Public hearing,
public
or-
hearing
yeah.
Okay.
officially.
So, any other questions about the budget, any of the line items, any of the assumptions? You've got 3 different pages showing these different values. The closest one is this one that's at 10.5 cents. So it's
Scenario 2.
pretty close enough, or close enough, I think, to. In this scenario, we're projected to have a positive cash flow of 454,000. I think we went through some of these line items, most of the line items last time.
So the last time we talked, at 11.5, we were looking at going to a 9.6 month reserve. So the new budget at 11.5 has a 9.2 month reserve.
Yeah, with August actuals, I think that's
That
the
the change.
projections was August. Now we got August actuals. Am I right about
That's
that?
correct.
That makes sense.
So that means we
Just projecting September.
didn't, we spent more than we expected, or we didn't do it?
Yeah, a little bit more than projected.
Spent more or saved more? Because,
Spent-
okay,
So we went from 9.6 to 9.2.
or maybe we sold less water.
Yeah,
We did adjust the water sewer revenue to more closely align with these river authorities projections, you know, how they've reduced their gallons. So that changed as well.
Water usage projections could have been modified just a little bit.
Since you saw the budget in August, yes.
Are you satisfied with that answer, Brad?
Yeah, I just, from clarity, when you change more than one thing,
Mhm.
if you could let us know
That would be nice.
what you changed,
Okay.
okay? Because I mean, what was advertised was, we just changed the rate, or we held the rate constant, and then,
It's common to make changes between August.
yeah, no, I understand, and it makes sense
Sure.
that you want to update it with the most accurate
Mhm.
numbers you've got, so. Okay.
Yeah, it was just the water sewer revenue.
Okay.
So,
And the service would be.
Yes, ma'am.
Kyle, just to be, so y'all already mentioned this, but, the parity budget that was prepared was with 10.5 and your FA says, 10.44. Do you wanna, once we get to the item where we adopt do you wanna adopt the parity tax rate of 10.44? And then, I don't think that would have a big impact on the budget that was prepared.
In the year
at
8.8.
10.5. Yeah.
I'm good with that unless that throws a monkey wrench in anything.
Tiny pennies there, I think.
Yeah, I would think that would be tiny, and you can always amend the budget if needed.
I put in 10.44.
Never
So you're okay with that? That's not gonna mess up your accounting or anything? Okay, then I'm good with sticking with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, so let's go back to item 8, which is to review and act on the operating budget and recommended water rate structure. So we have the budget, we've looked at it, I think we've talked about it, got our questions answered. So do we have a motion to accept and approve this budget?
I make move.
I'll second it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And the tax rate is, we'll talk about in item 9. We've kind of already had our conversation about that. We'd like to use 10.44. And realizing that parity probably could actually move around a little bit depending on how good our assumptions are, but. So anybody like to make a motion that we approve the 10.44 tax
Yeah,
rate?
I'll do that.
Okay, Brad, thank you, sir. I'll second it. All in favor, say aye. Aye. None opposed. Thank you. Consider, so item 10. Well, I guess we kind of jumped the gun, didn't we? Yeah.
Well, 9 and 10 are.
Close the public hearing.
Number 9 is talk about it. Number 10 is do it. So we just did it and talked about it. Okay. Are we good? Okay. Thank you. Item 11, approval and execution of an amended district information form.
Yeah, so, we prepared a draft with the rate that you had published, but we'll update it to the 10.44 rate. But this is just something that you're required to have, by TCEQ rules, so.
We sign that and you can just modify that document or whatever.
We'll modify that.
Thank you.
So it's just a question. I mean, so we published and we got 0 feedback. Is that what happened?
Haven't heard about it.
So typically, if you publish and then it'll say the next meeting date, and that's the public's opportunity to come and voice their opinions would be at this meeting, so.
So we sign that form. Do we actually need to have a motion and a vote here as
To
well?
approve it.
Okay,
Yes, please.
we jumped the gun on signing it. So I make a motion that we approve and execute the amended district information form.
So moved. Nelson.
Okay. So you want to just second it, Paul?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All in favor, say aye. Aye. None opposed. So that passes. Item 12. An update from our friends at SJRA.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Our monthly operating report is in your packet. One thing to add to that is as of September 1st, as approved through the MUDs, the Woodlands has begun a 50% surface water feed for all facilities. We are at a 50-50 blend. Any questions on the operating report, I'll be happy to answer or get the answers. If you don't have anything summary, and Dan have a quick update for y'all also.
Brad, here's that chart we were just looking at from
Yeah,
last
yeah.
month. Did you see that August?
I'm gonna keep updating that chart if that's.
That's interesting, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
great. Yeah.
And then on page 33, we had some interest and some requests for some tours. So on October 6th, we're gonna have a tour of the surface water plant on Lake Hunter. On October 20th, we're gonna have a tour of wastewater treatment plant 1. And I am currently securing a date for a tour of Bear Branch, as well as it was requested a tour of our water plants to see how that functions with the wells and those structures. So once I can get those dates lined out, I will share that with you guys. And then also Shelley had sent an email. Jace was on Hank's Think Tank last week and a podcast. And she sent an email with the link. So if you guys want to view it, it's about an hour and 15-minute video.
So I didn't get the email,
I remember seeing
but
that.
I watched the video.
You watched it?
Yeah, I watched it. Yeah, I got
The email
Laura
just
sent it
came out.
out.
Okay, good.
I didn't see it.
You haven't,
That explains why.
if you haven't been to the surface water plants, you need to do that. Just to see the filters and osmosis. But,
Technology,
hmm,
all the computers and the technology.
yeah, I mean, it's a bang up plant.
What I don't have is I don't have a link to Jim's podcast, which I guess is the other side of the story. But I am sure I can find it on Hank's website. But whatever, I can find it on Hank's website. Okay,
There were quite a few. It's on his YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And they're all there.
no, I thought Jace's presentation was right on.
Did you say Bear Branch plant?
The Bear
Talking about the
Branch.
dam to bring our swimsuits.
No, I don't remember swimming,
Okay.
but we just did a construction project on it, and so we had some interest in people looking at the work that was done.
Good we get.
So we need to RSVP on the tours, or will we get an email, or?
If you wouldn't let me know, just so I can kind of have a head count and
Page.
Okay.
keep track of who's coming, so we don't leave anyone behind.
Oh, director.
33.
On page 33,
I'll get it.
and at the very bottom, it's got RSVP.
Any other questions for Summer? Right on the other item.
I didn't get a page 33.
What?
Oh, yeah, I did. Tore it out. Sorry.
You wanted to put it in your wallet?
I was gonna take this out so I can remember. All right.
Just a few other updates on the other SDRA items there. Wastewater strategic plan. In your packet, there's meeting summary from August 24th. That was just the internal progress meeting with the consultant. We had another progress meeting that took place yesterday that we don't have a meeting summary for yet. But really over this past month and a half, we've been planning for the upcoming stakeholder meeting. The next one is September 28th. Where the main agenda items are looking at the approach we're taking for developing the cost estimate. So that's looking at the inputs, the variables, the assumptions, such as what are we using for inflation over the time period, and want to get some buy-in and input from the stakeholders at this meeting. So when we come and present at the the November 2nd stakeholder meeting with the actual numbers, there's more discussion geared towards the results, those numbers and path forward versus questioning kind of the methodology of how all those were put together. So we're hoping to get that input here to help streamline the process as we go down the road. There'll also be a presentation on the high level aspects of membrane bioreactor technology, which is still on the table for a couple of the shortlisted alternatives. And we want stakeholders to understand what that is, how that differs from our current system and the conventional treatment technologies, and how there may be pros and cons associated with that. So since how those are still on the table for alternatives, we want people to fully understand that technology. Any questions y'all have on the wastewater strategic plan?
Well, 28th is an additional stakeholder meeting you guys added.
That is an added stakeholder meeting that was not in the original.
Yeah, that's great.
But we feel, the input we received from stakeholders on asking for that meeting and some of the topics that we plan to discuss, I think it's going to be beneficial.
So we'll get an update from that meeting in October.
Yes, sir. Next one, the bullet point on here is update on infrastructure funding. I don't really have anything else to add to that other than what we've discussed in the past regarding Congressman Crenshaw's securing $3.6 million and looking at appropriation and when we may actually see the funding for that. And that was tied back to Bear Branch Dam projects that are coming out in the future regarding the spillway and the upstream flows from that. So as we get more info on that, we'll be sharing. Bear Branch Dam repairs. So last month we came to you with an update on the Bear Branch Dam repairs. We discussed some additional overruns in quantities and additional void spaces that were filled, and then the discovery of an additional void kind of along the spillway. We proceeded to, the contractor proceeded to build those. And as of yesterday, all those repairs have been made. There's a final walkthrough scheduled for tomorrow. Last month, we presented a cost estimate of around $60,000 additional to the original contract amount. We don't have all the final numbers, but we are confident it is going to be under that 60,000, probably by a few $1,000s. And there is a change order on SDRA Board of Directors for this Thursday for approval, official approval of that. So that project more or less wrapped up. Those repairs should all be taken care of. And the last one on here, Bear Branch Dam low flow vault update. We discussed that a little bit last month regarding that vault lid. And some of the vandalism we've had in it, the lack of fall protection. So we are proceeding over the next 4 to 6 weeks. We should have a procurement package put together. And that we can go out and solicit a contractor to procure and install that new valve vault lid, including the fall protection grating underneath it. So that is moving forward and we'll be getting updates on that. And then the last one, it's not on the list here, but wanted to just remind you of, is this Thursday at SDRA Board of Directors meeting. We have an agenda item on there for the official approval of the second supplement to the O&M agreement between MUDS and SDRA. So those terms that were all agreed to improve on y'all's end and give an authorization to Jim to sign. That item is now on SDRA's board to make it all free. Any questions on Bear Branch stuff?
Oh, tell us about Spring Creek Detention Study.
Sure, that's an interesting one.
I'm not betting.
We just talked about it for about 2 hours. So we haven't had a progress meeting for a few months now, and to kind of regather ourselves with some of the hurdles we've run into on the project. We just got off a progress meeting with funding partners and stakeholders. What we've laid out, what we discussed in the past is this decision matrix. So we've laid out with our consultant about 6 alternatives, pros and cons of each, taking that to stakeholders, taking that to funding partners, receiving input on, hey, what direction should we go for the remainder of this study? Mike and Jim have a copy of that matrix. If anybody wants to see it, feel free to reach out to them. They can provide it. I also have the presentation from today too.
I guess the question I would have is kind of whose court is the ball in right now?
So the current action item is SDRA is going to work with Half Associates, our consultant, to put together almost like a mini proposal on, we're looking at like 2 different alternatives. What would the scope of work would be? How would we take the remaining uninvoiced money on this contract? And what would that get us if we went a different path? For example, you got Walnut Creek.
A path other than the one where the lawyers are getting involved in saying, the Rice University endowment property, something other than that?
Correct. So those are some of the alternatives one we're looking at. So Walnut Creek is the Rice University one. That has come in as a very low benefit cost ratio. Through some optimization that our consultant's been working on, Birch Creek still looks viable. And through discussions today, I would say that is something worth continuing to explore the viability of that reservoir. When I mentioned a different path, the other option that funding partners showed interest in today was looking at improving or the impacts of improving the conveyance side of Spring Creek through de-snagging. Channelization has been thrown out there down here in the Woodland area. And that ties back even to a proposed project in the regional master plan that was done a few years back. So do we cut off further exploring Walnut Creek and use those remaining funds to give us some better aspect on what conveyance side down here we might look at for de-snagging? Those are options we're looking at. So
like the study would tell us how much benefit that would create if you dug the channel out or straightened it out or.
Yeah, just even, going in there and de-snagging might be clearing trees and brush within the low flow channel, clearing trees and brush into the overbank to a certain extent.
Yeah, it's really difficult to straighten it out.
It's-
There's just so much opposition by
Right.
you land conservancies, environmentalists.
We're not saying coming in, straighten out and concrete line Spring Creek. This is more kind of operation maintenance to be a reoccurring thing, actually.
Panther Branch where they just mow it, clean it out and mow it. I mean, that's all they do there. I mean, really straighten it out. I guess they're going to.
Pilot channel, it meanders and year after year, you can look at it on Google Earth. And the pilot channel's over on this side one year and then it moves over to this side. Yeah.
All right, so that's where we're at.
Any questions for Dan?
Does increasing the conveyance help us if there's a reservoir at the end? I mean, is the receiving end have capacity to take more if we get it there faster?
You talking about Lake Houston?
Well, is that?
Don't ask them.
If you were to do conveyance improvements, yes, you're increasing the velocity of that water, but you would also have to take that into consideration through some sort of detention to offset that. So that's why, continuing to look at Birch Creek in terms of detention may make channelization conveyance options down in here in Spring Creek, Woodlands area still viable. So they can be tied together.
Have they dredged out Lake Houston some? You know?
I know I've been doing dredging on the upper,
Upper end,
yeah, but
West.
I wouldn't be.
on the West Fork, I think they're doing that, but not at the lake. Per se, it's just big dollars to do that.
Anything else? Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, Katie, can you give us our attorney's report, please?
Yes, I can. I just want to let you know, Brian apologizes for not being here today. He had a conflict this evening, so he isn't able to make it to this meeting or the next one.
Send him a text saying we raised it a nickel,
Yeah. See, like,
since he wasn't here.
He'll be right over.
elections, yeah.
He'll find somehow to get here.
Yeah, but thanks for having me. I don't really have an update for you. I just was going to tell you about the Bear Branch second supplement, which Dan already covered. It's on the Google Drive if you wanted to look at it, but I should will prove this later this week. But that's all I have for you.
All right. Any questions for our legal counsel? Item 15 is receive and act upon staff information regarding the upcoming MCAD Board of Directors election.
So there is an opening on the MCAT board. A gentleman that was on that board has moved out of the district, but no longer owns property in the county. So there is an opening. It's for appointment. I don't believe it's for election. I believe it's for appointment. Metro has appointed or nominated somebody for appointment. MUD 1 and MUD 60 nominated the same person for an appointment. We already have a MUD director on the on the MCAT board, Arthur Bridhall. So it's not likely that we'll probably get another member from the Woodlands, but it's possible. So MUD 1 and 60 nominated Walt Leszewski from MUD 1, who they thought would be a good candidate. Metro nominated a fellow we're not familiar with, Wayne Lasco. It's a personal friend of Harry Alcott's that he thought would be a good fit on that board. So you can nominate anybody or nominate one of those players. I don't know if that, if they get a bunch of nominations for the same guy, if that carries any weight or not.
I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but Walt's been really, really active in the Woodlands for a long time as far as
Oh, yeah.
positions
He's
on.
a former hometown hero. He was on the DSC for several years.
I was gonna say, did he
Been
do
on
the
that board for
covenants?
2-3 terms.
Covenants board?
Covenants, yeah. Yeah.
Since it's good or bad.
Interested in serving and a long time volunteer.
So Paul, you would endorse him?
I would, I mean, I would endorse Walt, I think. I don't know the other gentleman.
Nor did we, I don't know anything about him, but Harry endorsed him. That's who they nominated.
Anybody you'd like to nominate or any
No.
thoughts on Wayne Leszewski?
No.
Walt.
No, no comment. So I mean, no knowledge. So I'll abstain.
That's a good comment.
Yeah. You know, you guys want to,
Well, if you abstain, then we have 2 votes.
oh, you need my vote to have a majority.
Well, I mean,
You have a majority
I
of the
don't have
two.
strong, so is our vote needed, you know, for?
It seemed like last time we went through this, there was no rush to do
We
it.
voted for Arthur last time.
Yeah, for our special purpose district, this one is not a special purpose district. I believe this one is for Montgomery ISD. Does that sound right?
Sure.
I think it's from Montgomery ISD, so they may want
There's a probability that we're gonna get a Woodlands person anyways.
We can take no action, right?
So if we don't vote for this candidate, what's the
What
impact?
happens?
Yeah, and it's just putting forth a nomination. I don't think they're voting for it or electing
Yeah.
anything. It's just
Yeah.
nominating somebody. You don't have to
I don't
nominate
think you
anybody.
have to nominate.
Yeah, I would say if they've already nominated that person, then I'd say we need to keep.
Yeah, I was just saying that.
For
I don't
them,
know
we
if
don't have anybody new to.
nominations coming for the same
It's
person,
done,
that carries
then we
any
don't-
weight.
Unless we had somebody better or different that we felt what needed to be done, I think it's already been done. I'd leave it alone.
If you were jumping up and down saying you really need to vote for this
I
guy,
didn't say I was gonna
Yeah.
nominate
Some people
him.
know Walt. Maybe Brad does not know Walt. We know him just because he's been. here.
The way I understand it, he's
Not-
been
not for the
nominated.
last 2 or 3 terms.
Did we
sounds
get,
to me like,
well, so did we get a request from Mud 60 to endorse Walt?
We did not.
No, that's what I said. And I don't know that, is the difference in nominating and endorsing. If he's been nominated, he's gonna be running for election and I don't have anybody else or any other opinion.
Yeah, I think the selection will be by the existing. board
Exactly,
members.
yeah.
I think that's who.
so we have the option of just taking no action here, right? Is that correct? Is that
When in
kind of-
doubt, take
is that
no
the-
action.
Is that a consensus? No action?
I'm
Okay.
All right with that.
I'm good with that.
And we're gonna take no action on item 15.
Good enough.
Thank you.
No.
All right, Jim/Mike.
Okay, there was a couple of fellows that came to the trustee meeting last Wednesday. That are running for the Lone Star Groundwater Conservation District. One of the guys is on Mud 36, John Yours. He is interested in running for that. He was interested in running for the Woodlands position. He's teamed up with a fellow named James Ridgway, who's running for the precinct 3 opening. There's a couple other positions that are running unopposed. John and James did put out a little campaign sheet. It's in your packet on page 52, just a kind of campaign flyer, if you will, on what they would vote for and what they kind of stand for. I'm not endorsing these guys. I'm just putting.
There's no date on it. There's no signature.
Yeah, there's nothing
The
on it.
writing is not very good, to be honest.
Man, they look like engineers, right? All text, no.
Actually, one of them is a ex-newspaper reporter and has a degree in English, so I don't know who wrote it for.
Writing was, I think John wrote it.
Midway.
Kind of below average. I don't know.
In full disclosure, Mr. Ridgway worked for the Lone Star Groundwater Conservation District for a
He
few
did.
years when I was there.
I think on the one hand, they would definitely argue for the Woodlands
Yeah.
and lobby for, you know, appropriate treatment of the woodlands and all
Yeah,
that.
I agree.
Maybe a little controversial,
Need some,
adversarial, maybe,
right.
in the case of Ridgeway.
There is a nice complimentary email that one of our elderly customers did on one of our customer service guys. We always like to get those, include those whenever we get them in the packet. And that's really all I've got. I'll answer any questions if you have anything about the rest of the packet, but Jim has been coming to a select few meetings. He did come to Mud 1 this morning. I don't think he'll come to 47. I don't think we'll see him until maybe 46 tomorrow. There's a couple of issues he wants to go over on 46. But the rest of them, he's recuperating, still not. Did he drive his own truck today?
No.
I saw his truck. Okay. I don't know if he's driving. I don't think he's driving quite yet. Still wearing the back brace and the walker, but he's getting around okay.
Good.
Any questions?
Okay, thank you, Mike. Item 17, trustees report. We've covered most everything we talked about. There's some personnel HR issues that came up in the last couple of trustee meetings. We had a personnel committee last week before the trustee meeting, and basically Jim, we talked about it in closed session. Basically, the personnel committee agreed with the general manager's recommendations regarding income and budget, or salaries and budget, and the board approved it. And I guess we can talk about it offline if you have more detailed questions on that.
Did ask Brian and Katie and their firm to look at our policy RNS 60, which is how we handle customer defaults. Prior policy just said we put a door hanger on their door. We've given them several warnings before we cut them off, and the door hangers, just the delivery service to do that is getting quite expensive. So we're looking for ways to maybe notify that. I mean, we'll work with them till the very end to get them. We don't have to cut them a payment plan or whatever, but some people are just, that's the last resort.
I have for that, unless somebody has questions about the meeting. Okay. Item 18, do we have anything for closed session? Takes care of 19. Any items for placement on future agenda?
We did all the hard ones today.
We did approve the Wilderness Water Agency budget last week, as we discussed last month and voted on, so. Got to mention that. All right, if there's no other.
I had point of privilege, I guess. I'm for those people who hadn't had enough of it, the Woodlands Green is a local environmental education. And we've asked, annually, the USGS does a survey of about 140 wells or more, I think, that from the surface of the earth to the water table level. They let the pumps turn off, they let it rest a while, they try to see how far after it has recovery time. So every year they take that, and they've been doing it since Maytown in 30, 40 years. But they'll be presenting that on Thursday night, the 22nd at 7:00 via Zoom. And you just go to the woodlandsgreen.org and find the link. But it's a very apolitical. They're USGS, they provide data. They show us that data. The changes from last year to this year, the changes from 20 years ago today. So
can we make an agenda item and have you report on that next month? Kind of give us
I'd be glad to do that. I'd be glad to do that. But I've had them come every year for 4 or 5 years. And I said it's something they do in the wintertime. Then it's done by January, February. Now the data's out. And they are very good at also showing how you can do interact. And now they've come to the point where you can interact 5 years, your own whatever wells and things like that. So I said they just simply report. And since I monitor it, I don't let anybody talk that gets out of the question, except how far is it from here to here?
Yeah.
So anyway, that's,
Okay.
it's a nice educational thing.
So we'll have a briefing on the USGS reports on well levels,
Well
water
levels.
table levels.
Summary.
Thank you.
These are wells in Montgomery and Harris.
Several, yeah,
Yeah.
mostly Harris County, and then they've got several of them here, some of the bigger muds and things around. They're mostly big municipal wells, but they're Montgomery County, Fort Bend County,
Okay.
Harris County, all over. And it's an interesting presentation because you can see the changes that we talked about conversion. You can see the changes in Houston. So
Static.
they do mention subsidence. Thank you.
Anything else? Meeting's adjourned. 45 minutes.
Actually, fine.
Yeah.